To all of you guys that are in the US that are being affected by this humongous winter storm that's just passing through a lot of the areas, especially in the West, my thoughts and prayers go out to you. Please stay safe. It's really crazy right now. Hey RV family, keep it tight. My name is Jay Moore's Third View Guy, reviewing music for the love of music, and I'm back again to bring you another video. And in this one, I'm going to be covering the new Ruins of Beverast record entitled The Thule Grimoires. Y'all remember that community post not too long ago about how I was processing one of my favorite records of the year? Yeah, this was it. Ruins of Beverast, for those unaware, is a one-man extreme music project from Germany fronted by Alexander von Meilenwald. And even if it isn't your particular cup of tea, to say that one person can conjure up a discography that is pretty much flawless when it comes to experimental extreme music, it's very impressive to say the least. And Ruins of Beverast discography is one that I think gets very overlooked in the extreme scene. And if you have been blind to it up until this point, don't go on that way. Following the trend, the Thule Grimoires, much like all of the discography that came before it, is, to say the least, to put it in layman's terms, dark. A serving of claustrophobic and never-ending assorted candies of death metal, doom metal, black metal, and the avant-garde. Even through tracks that span 11 minutes, 12 minutes, 14 minutes long, and this record being over an hour's worth of material, there's always something very alluring about how Alexander can string together such a minimalistic idea and make it larger than the sum of its parts. Syncopated guitar hits and chord progressions that'll pop in at various intervals really do spice things up, but this record, I won't lie, is very consistent and in a way that a lot of people are not going to enjoy that much. You can get stuck in a bit of a lull, for lack of better terms. It whines and it whines and it whines and it whines, and you turn around and you don't know where the hell you are anymore. The lights that'll guide your way are these spoken word intervals, piercing through and breaking things up, such as on the track Ropes into Eden, where before it even hits the midway point of the very long-winded track, it breaks up into this cemetery dirge, descending into eerie background noise and atmospheric shots of wind and a distorted voice speaking from a distance. But it is always musical, even if it is musical in the unorthodox sense. There's always sort of this tie-in that makes it feel like a full body experience. The tone of these breakups match the intensity of the heaviest portions of this record with how demented they can come across. Because in an entire track's length, Alexander carefully threads the needle between all of these various shades of extreme music, preparing on a dinner plate such an unsettling glimpse into the abstract. And from a musical standpoint, even if this specific breed of extreme music isn't your specific kind, it's hard not to really appreciate the musicianship of just how weird and how abnormal everything is. And don't even get me started on the production. The layering on some of these vocals is downright horrific. And not just in the brutal sense, not in the heavy sense. It is sincerely in the terrifying sense, the horrific sense. Some shrieks and growls join in tandem like black magic to just swirl over these dystopian soundscapes. This record is barren, it is hopeless, and it's like a total solar eclipse. And the sun ain't getting unblotted out for a while, I feel like. It really does, in many ways, feel like a movie. You're getting the full extent of what is able to be presented here, with vocals that'll swap from clean to harsh spoken word, fast to slow instrumentals, and an atmosphere that always hangs in orbit. It really is a feature-length unfolding before your very eyes audibly. It's complex, it's difficult to decipher, but that's not something that should be unfamiliar to fans of this band in the past. Equal parts funeral dirges and quickened blazes of black metal with poetic lyricism just interwoven all the while. But I won't say that at times Ruins of Beverast as a project can't become too adventurous for its own good. I mean, cultivating this many odd ideas musically can be very difficult, and at times can make something that should pan out a bit better seem so alien and unfamiliar that it misses the mark of what was intended for a certain track or section. I will go so far as to say that on Thule Grimoires, Ruins of Beverast sounds even more out there reaching than anything they've done prior, and they've had some weird ass releases. So to say that in the infinity gauntlet of odd albums that this comes off being the strangest, that really is a great indication and should say a lot. Pushing that envelope of experimentation, piercing into the unknown and the abnormal can pose a lot of trials on tracks like Mammoth Police, which does stand tall, horrific, sort of harrowing, but also long-winded and otherwise grating. I noticed that the times that Ruins as a project sounds the most alien and difficult to digest on this specific record are with clean vocals. The aforementioned Mammoth Police exhibits the fact that soundscapes can oftentimes outweigh the vocals, and the tribalistic banging of the first half is very troubling in a good way, and it makes me sort of wish for the absence of vocals in this specific section. It's the ability to knot up these purplish mini voids that are so chilling. That's the draw. That's what sets it apart. That's what makes this such an interesting project to listen to, so when that gets undermined, I think it is unfortunate. And when said voids sit shoulder to shoulder with vocals that I can only describe as the howlings of a dark pastor chanting before an altar, it can make it this weird dichotomy, sort of this antithesis that should work better together than it necessarily does, but in the execution factor just makes it sound a little bit faulty. What is done here in this intoxicating dance is craft, in my opinion, what is the strangest record in Ruins of Beverast discography, but there is something dazzling that makes it difficult to turn away from even in the most abnormal moments of its runtime. At its most slow or its quickest, there is always this level of asphyxiation that you just cannot pull the wrapped hands away from your throat of. For me, this record has a hell of a lot of replayability, and I think that's the sort of car crash mentality of difficult to turn away. There are moments that aren't necessarily musically amazing. They make me feel bad. They make me feel unsettled. They are bone-chilling to say the least, but I think that is what draws me to this record and draws a lot of people to this project in general, is the emotion that Alexander's able to invoke on a project like this. And for me, this is an auditory experience that I have just not really had something to the same caliber and degree of for a while, and I'm going to acknowledge that it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but definitely give it a shot, because this thing really does sound great in my opinion, with a fantastic production behind it, and I do suggest it for anyone looking for something a little bit, or a lot, off the beaten path. I'm going to be giving this album an 8.5 out of 10, and that is a wrap. Have you heard this new Ruins of Beverast record, the Thule Grimoires? If you have, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about it. I would love to discuss this record with you. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is, my name is Jay Morris, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.